So I have bunk status now. This is due to the fact that this Friday is my final day of high school. And as the somber final moments of high school approach me, I've come to a unique insight. The last month of school especially has kind of felt like I'm a German infantryman in 1945. Now you may ask, what the hell is this guy talking about? But just hear me out for a second. To illustrate this, I'll tell a story about a German infantryman during the Battle of Seal Heights. And as I tell the story, it'll become apparent how this relates to high school. So let's get to it, right? Now, this thought has been on my mind for a while, and I want to get this out for school and to at least seem a little relevant. Felix, a 22-year-old draftee, part of the 277th Infantry Division, marches through some no-name village around 10 miles north of Berlin, alongside his platoon and squad. 4 long years of fighting, yet it seems, after all this, they've ended right where they've started. Ehrlich thinks back to 4 years ago. Bright-eyed and full of hope, he decided to enlist for the Heer. With no thoughts about the future, he decided to chase adventure instead, unaware of the maelstrom to come. Ehrlich thinks back to his basic training. He remembers it as harsh, but also with a sense of comfort. It was there where he felt invincible. With the might of the Wehrmacht behind him, how could they possibly lose? After completing basic training, he would be assigned to the 276th Infantry Division, part of Army Group Center. It was at this point where his optimism would be the highest it would ever be. Before the battles, before the struggle, before the war. At first, their advances were swift, conquering land by the hundreds of square miles. It truly seemed like he was on top of the world. Sure, there were moments of fear, but those were far in between. Very quickly, the typhoon would come their way. Advances would become smaller, and casualties would rise. These casualties would be by the dumbest reasons too, whether it was lighting a cigarette in the middle of the night, or running headfirst into machine gun fire, or even being sent to a penal battalion after disobeying an officer. Battle after battle it became clear. There was no end in sight. It also became clear to them their commanders were morons. They would give vague orders and little in the way of actual leadership. Instead, they focused their attention on some obsession of theirs. Time after time, Ulrich watched as their superiors became more and more detached from reality. Day after day, week after week, month after month, it would all be the same thing. Attack. With what ammo? Fight. With what food? Kill. For what purpose? Eventually, the time would blend into an unholy kaleidoscope of a daily routine. Wake up, fight, collect dead, try to go to sleep, repeat, 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 repeat. The years would fly by with this routine, and before he even knew it, Ulrich was at the end of the war, quite a different man from when he started. It became apparent to everyone involved that the war was over. Many of his fellow comrades had already deserted, yet some desperately clung to the fight. Those who kept fighting had simple reasoning to it, simply all that they had ever known. Given everything for the war effort, it had consumed their entire being. In 10 years' time, those people would still think about the war. They would still view themselves as national heroes. But to the more rational ones, they simply wanted to move on with their lives. The commanders had also become completely detached from reality, ordering great attacks or great last stands that no one could achieve. The will of the army was broken, yet they still clung to whatever power they had or claimed to have. But through the madness, Erich saw a light at the end of the tunnel. If he just fought for a few weeks, no, a few days, the army would surrender. All could end. He couldn't stop fighting yet, without the fear of being hanged by his superiors. So he must hold out until a total surrender is signed. But as the moments of freedom get closer and closer, he ponders, what now? He's almost there, the end of the world. He's done nothing but fight for 4 long years. But now it'll all be over, and now he needs to think about what to do after the war. Maybe he'll be a farmer on a field far from civilization in order to not remember the past. Maybe going to college sounds like a good idea. After all, he still has a long life ahead of him, even if it doesn't seem like it. But he decides not to dwell too much on the details. After all, they were still at war. So, with one last thought, he grabbed his rifle and prepared for another day of fighting. So, I wanted to end off this tale by saying that the end of high school is both a high and somber note. It is both the end of the beginning and the beginning of the end. The start of life is over, and now it is time for us to walk all different paths. That's about it, really.